So PSG are ready to do battle with Real Madrid in what is basically a battle of European fat cats who usually take care of any dilemma with a checkbook. But let's take a look at a possible starting 11 of the most expensive players PSG have ever sold. Michelangelo. I guess PSG have never been in the business of selling goalkeepers. For a lad to have been sold for £1.7 million, a fee that Neymar pockets across 3 weeks, and still to make this list is pretty ridiculous. Michelangelo played over 150 games for the Parisians before Lille paid £1.7 million for him in 2009. Serge Aurier. I hope Tottenham knew what they were taking on when they paid PSG £23 million for this man last August. In his time in Paris, Aurier was suspended for calling his teammate Angel Di Maria a clown, when we all know that Dobby would be more appropriate, using a homophobic term to describe Laurent Blanc, which I will not repeat because YouTube demonetization is a thing, and also criticising the favouritism shown towards Zlatan Ibrahimovic, resulting in him training with the reserves for a month. Not only that, he was also given a 2-month jail term, suspended of course, come on, he's a footballer, after assaulting a police officer. I can guarantee you if the man worked in retail he'd be spending the night in the cells. £23 million was a big fee to receive from him. I'd say the Ivorian didn't expect to be battling it out with Kieran Trippier every week, a man who I'm sure he didn't even know existed. Mamadou Sakho. Mamadou Sakho was one of PSG's hot prospects. He signed for the club in 2007, back when they were a god-awful football team who could barely rub 2 pennies together to afford themselves a chicken roll. They finished 16th in his first season, their worst ever finish. Still though, he went on to play over 200 games for the club and looked set to have a big future in Paris, and then Liverpool priced him away for £18 million, with PSG drafting in the likes of Thiago Silva. It was a bit like when Man City chucked out Richard Dunn within 5 minutes of getting rich, or when Jordan Belfort ditched his wife within half an hour of becoming successful. As we all know, Sakho is currently 27 years of age and at Crystal Palace, wondering how in the space of 5 years he's managed to go from being teammates with Zlatan Ibrahimovic to Christian Benteke. David Luiz. The £31 million received 18 months ago remains the most amount of cash ever received by PSG for a single player. It still didn't beat the £50 million they paid for him in 2014, just the 3 weeks before this happened. Luiz has had a mixed time since returning to London. Last season it was brilliant as he led Chelsea to title glory. This season he might as well have booked a 6-month holiday to the Algarve for all the action he's seen. Ronaldinho, £14 million. That was what Barcelona paid PSG for Ronaldinho in 2016. To be fair, considering he was struggling to make it past Levin Kurzawa in the pecking order, it was probably the right move for the left back. The only problem is, Kurzawa has now apparently been offered to Barcelona in the summer. Blaise Matuidi. Why on earth did PSG get rid of Blaise Matuidi last summer? Blaise Matuidi is one of the most defensively sound midfielders in Europe. It made little sense to allow him to leave for Juventus last summer for £18 million. Yeah, it's true, it was Matuidi himself that wanted to leave, but come on, you're PSG, just offer the man the cash he wants to keep him around. If you can convince someone to give up playing alongside Lionel Messi to take on Strasbourg and Nice every week, you can do pretty much anything. Yohan Cabaye. Oh, Yohan Cabaye, what a waste of money. PSG had already spent close to £20 million on the Frenchman in January 2014, only to realise very quickly that he could not make the step up, and so 18 months later he was booted back to Alan Pardew with Crystal Palace, this time in a £10 million deal. He's done okay in London to be fair, but he's come nowhere near scaling the heights of his time on Tyneside. Laurent Ribera. Yes, this one was so long ago you probably have forgotten Laurent Ribera ever played for PSG. Most of us will remember Ribera for banging in all those screamers for Newcastle under Sir Bobby Robson. Some of our younger viewers won't have a clue, and will only know him as the guy who the makers of Goal dressed their main character as so they could steal one of his free kicks for the final shot. The Frenchman should have probably claimed royalties. Anyway, he left PSG after 2 seasons in 2001 after scoring 34 goals in 82 games and signed for Newcastle in a £9.5 million deal. 2001 was a time when Newcastle could actually sign PSG's best player. If they tried that now, they would be laughed so far out of Paris, it's ridiculous. Ronaldinho. Speaking of Brazilian superstars, of course Ronaldinho was always going to appear on this list. Replacing Laurent Ribera, Ronaldinho wasn't bad management back in 2001. I mean, Graham Souness tried to replace Ribera with Charles Nzogby, so there we go. In the summer of 2003, Ronaldinho alongside David Beckham was the hottest property on the market. He had Real Madrid and Manchester United fighting tooth and nail for him, only to end up with Barca in a £30 million deal. Anyway, he went to Barcelona, won the Champions League, became one of the best players in the world, before he was shipped out with Pep Guardiola seemingly terrified that he and Deco were going to turn Messi into an alcoholic. Lukas Mora. The most recent departure on this list, and the second one to have ended up at Spurs. Neymar's arrival was always going to squeeze out at least one of their attacking talents. Lukas Mora beat Di Maria to the punch. The 25-year-old has ended up at Wembley for £25 million. JeanKevin Augustine. Sorry Anelka, you just missed the cut by about £1 million. Instead, JeanKevin Augustine takes this place, a man who scored 2 goals in 23 appearances for the PSG first team, and yes, he is a striker. He's only 20, so he could turn out to be the next Thierry Henry. He could also be the next Yaya Sanogo. They took £14 million from RB Leipzig for his services last summer. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.